I've always had a love for power scaling, but the community is not very cool, and people will literally do shit like doxing you over your opinions on how strong a fictional character is. So before I get into the video, I just want to say this is supposed to be fun, guys. I'm sure I'm gonna be wrong about things. If so, don't be an asshole about it. Inform me in the comments or tell me, and I'd love to learn. Anyway, just to get into the video, I'm sure I'm going to get some things wrong, and that's fine. This is just my opinion on the scaling of Star Wars, so I don't know. Be chill. In this video, I'll cover The Acolyte, The Phantom Menace, and Clone Wars Vintage 2003. I know that's not canon, but I like it, so whatever. Just think of it as a little bonus, I guess. I intend for this to be a long-running series on this channel, so I have a little tier list to put all the characters. As you can see, there's going to be a lot of tiers, not even all of them shown here. And these tiers may change meaning depending on how far the scaling goes. For me, it's just an easy way to keep up with who the strongest characters are and where they kind of are in the spectrum. Just to get it out of the way, the bottom tier is reserved for characters who aren't combatants, but they have some sort of skill that makes them some kind of threat. For example, R2-D2 or young Anakin, who aren't fighters, but they can do damage. In K tier, we got young Anakin and R2-D2. They are not fighters, but R2-D2 has shown the ability to fly. Also, he can like deprogram things and open doors. And he's got that main character plot armor where realistically he should have been killed a long time ago, but he manages to survive every single movie. Anakin doesn't have any combat prowess, but he is a great pilot, and he has the highest midichlorian count ever, so we're just gonna put him here. Also, from what we know about Grogu, who's literally a baby, Anakin might be able to do some crazy shit like twist a rhino's nutsack. Oh yeah, I forgot we're also doing Attack of the Clones, which means that young Boba Fett would probably also be in that tier. Next we got J tier, which is kind of just for your average soldier level character. And I know there's a lot of difference in the power here. You could argue that clone troopers and battle droids should be on completely separate tiers, but I'm just trying to keep it simple. Zam Wesell is insanely disappointing because for such a prominent bounty hunter, you'd assume they'd be much more powerful, but we really don't see a lot from them. I put clone troopers at the top because they're basically trained from day one to be elite soldiers. Speaking of elite soldiers, I tier is reserved for characters who aren't quite Padawan level, but they do have okay matchups with people higher on the tier list. Fordo is represented as an elite soldier, and he was able to kill multiple battle droids. There's also a scene where him and his men are firing at General Grievous, and rather than blocking or reflecting the attacks, General Grievous is forced to run from them. May and Osha are very talented in hand-to-hand combat, and when push comes to shove, they can do damage to higher level Force users like Jedi Masters. Magna Guards can consistently catch Jedi Masters off guard, and they also can easily kill clone troopers. I imagine I'm gonna piss some people off with these next couple tiers because we're actually getting into the real Force users now, and that means main characters. And y'all might not agree with my stances on this. Now, before you freak out, that's not Plo Koon, it's another of the same species, and there's a reason that Anakin as a Padawan is so low. This tier is mainly for Padawans. Padawan Torben could survive an attack from Kel Naka, and Shaw Ji is implied to have gone through a large battle before he gets murked by General Grievous. But as for Ethia, or whatever her name is, I don't know her actual Jedi rank, but she was one of the fodder characters to the Stranger in The Acolyte, so I'm just gonna put her in Padawan tier, because we don't know much about her. You can argue that Anakin is a low Jedi Knight level character because he was able to briefly spar with Dooku and his insanely high midichlorian count, but he really does nothing in the movie. I mean, yeah, he kind of helps take down the bounty hunter, but in the fight with Dooku, it's kind of an anti-feat how easily he gets his ass whooped. And Dooku wasn't even taking the fight seriously. He was visually smiling and clowning around the whole time. Next, we got G tier for Jedi Knight level characters. Despite being a Padawan, Jeki was able to hold her own against the stranger for quite some time before finally getting killed. And I think that's just impressive enough to bump her up a tier. Yord also lasted against the stranger for quite some time, but to me, he just comes across as the most average Jedi Knight you can possibly find. And it's also implied that it took him forever to even get to the rank of Jedi Knight, so for all we know, he might just be ass. Count Dooku believed that Asajj Ventress was more than enough of a matchup for Anakin Skywalker. But at this point in time, Anakin Skywalker was increasing in strength very rapidly, and we can see this as he literally gets updated to the rank of Jedi Knight right after beating Asajj Ventress. Obi-Wan Kenobi is this high because as a Padawan, he was able to fight against Darth Maul alongside Qui-Gon Jinn, and eventually defeat Darth Maul when he had an amp after watching Qui-Gon die. In Maul's defense, though, the only reason he really lost was because he was overconfident. We're on to F tier, and I'll try and get through this tier pretty fast. It's just for your standard average Jedi Master, and there's a theme in this tier. Most of the characters are implied, or you could assume, to have some higher level of strength, but we don't really get to see that in full force. Whether it be a Torben scenario where he was super strong and had that really awesome force shield, but he was killed in the show super fast. The average Jedi Master could completely outclass anyone below them on this list so far, but they also have horrible matchups against the people above them, getting easily murked by the Jedi killers like Darth Maul and General Grievous. Now in E tier, we can look at the true Jedi Masters. These are characters who I would consider on the level of your average Jedi Council member. And yes, I'm aware that Coleman Trebor was a member of the Jedi Council. However, I refuse to put him any higher than the tier I put him in. You can rearrange the bottom three of this tier however you want. I'm not so sure about the order I put him in, but I'm pretty confident on the rest of these. Shakti and Ki-Adi-Mundi were consistently able to survive against Grievous after their grueling battle, and Kit Fisto was taking down entire small armies of droids and ships by himself. Qui-Gon is above all of this, though, because it's literally stated that he would be a member of the Jedi Council if it weren't for him breaking the rules all the time. Also, the sheer amount of time he spent one-on-one with Darth Maul is insane. Darth Maul is a certified Jedi killer no matter how you slice it. So it's very impressive. Qui-Gon did amazing considering this was the first encounter with a Sith in God knows how long. But there are still characters I would consider more impressive, like Jango Fett straight up being able to fight Obi-Wan Kenobi with a little bit of assistance from Boba, and also he was able to kill Coleman Trebor. Even if it was an off-guard kill, that's impressive. 2003 Clone Wars Obi-Wan would automatically just be stronger than the movie version because he's now more accustomed to war combat and has probably grown in Jedi training. You can also further this point by saying he was able to beat Dirge when he wasn't able to beat Jango Fett. Anakin after the time skip should be roughly around the top of this tier because he's shown to be one of the most important assets to the Jedi. I reserved D tier for the Jedi killers. All of these characters in this tier can pretty much casually kill Jedi Knights and Padawans, and even to an extent Jedi Masters. Strap in for the final tier because I might be about to spit some hot takes. I don't know though. Maybe I'm objectively right. Maybe this is stupid. You can tell me. Mace Windu basically solos an army of droids, so that should pretty much solidify why he's so high. Also, he's basically treated as the second highest rank of the entire Jedi Council, right next to Yoda. Dooku trained General Grievous and Asajj Ventress. Also, he's able to casually beat the shit out of Obi-Wan and Anakin. But Yoda takes the high ground for that final part of the tier, because he low-key had Dooku shit in his pants. He might have had a facade on, but I think most of us are under the consensus that Yoda would have won that fight. But yeah, that's my tier list for now. I'm super tired. It took a long time to make this video, even if it doesn't seem that way. I just hope you enjoyed. Tell me what you think. Bye. Before we start the video, I just want to say I can't understate how grateful I am for the positive response to part 1. This is really cool, and I don't know what to say. I'm just very happy about it, and I'm excited to make more of these. Thank you so much for all the comments and interaction. It means the world to me. Despite how low quality these videos may seem, they do take me forever to work on and research for, so it's just great to get that kind of response for all the time I've put into this. But I'm done being sappy. Let's cover the basics of the tier list right now. The tier list is very similar, but I did add a new tier above J called J+. You'll see why. Also, I've cleaned up the roster of characters who are on the tier because nobody really cares about, Padme scaling. So I've tried to make room for the more important things, and in this video I'll be covering the first season of Clone Wars with maybe 3 episodes from season 2. I'll also be covering, I think, 1 or 2 characters from Knights of the Old Republic, because I'm doing a lot of research on that right now. But without further ado, let's get started. The new additions to K tier are Jar Jar Binks, unfortunately, Jango Fett, and Dr. Vindy. I believe Dr. Vindy deserves his place on this tier because of the way he could weaponize the blue virus. Also, it was implied that over time, just one blue virus bomb could take down an entire star system. I've done a lot of cleanup on J tier, and I think it's looking a lot better right now. You've got battle droids at the bottom, which makes sense because they're displayed as idiotic in the show. Then you've got Sith troopers from Knights of the Old Republic. Then you've got Senate guards. Then you've got clone troopers. Above that would be the B2 battle droids due to their immense strength. And even beyond that, we have the Tal's warriors because they were able to take down multiple clones and droids with very, very limited weaponry. As for named characters, Waxer and Boyle were able to fight off a large creature, and they are members of Cody's troops, and they are named clones, so they should just be better than the average soldier character. Slick was able to give Cody and Rex a good fight, but he did eventually lose, which is why he doesn't go up to the next tier. I tier has by far had the most growth. Droid commandos are capable of taking out clones. They're shown as highly intelligent and can even outsmart the clones. Assassin droids were able to give Anakin and Ahsoka a good fight, but they did eventually lose. Rex, Cody, Gree, and Blyze all solidly scale above anyone on the soldier tier, but they're not quite as good as Fordo. Kato was able to knock out Jocasta Nu when she was off guard, and later fight Ahsoka, though she did lose. And finally, Helios 3E gave Anakin a lot of trouble. But Anakin didn't have his lightsaber, so it's not quite as impressive. H tier hasn't changed much, but the changes that were made are pretty crucial. I will admit, in my first video, I made a major error by downplaying Anakin. I do still believe he's a bit overrated, but surviving an encounter with Count Dooku is impressive nonetheless. You could argue that Ahsoka deserves to be in Jedi Knight tier for her ability to escape encounters with Grievous and Asajj Ventress alive, but I think the narrative itself kind of points to Ahsoka being Padawan level, with her multiple times not only being shown to be literally a Padawan, but to be inexperienced. She's at the top of this tier because not only is she a main character, but she's being trained by Anakin. Also, her encounters with Asajj and Grievous are enough to put her at the top. In G tier, we got Nadar, who was able to briefly survive against Grievous and give him a decent enough fight for a Jedi Knight. Then we have Padawan Anakin, who, yes, was able to survive against Dooku. Also, he has that absurd midichlorian count and feels confident enough in himself to disobey Obi-Wan. I might put him even higher later, but for now, I'm gonna be putting him here. Now we have the small but mighty G+ tier. These are characters who I think could kill Jedi Knights, but aren't good enough to beat Jedi Masters. The representative of this tier is the unnamed Dark Jedi from the start of KOTOR. F tier is basically the same with the addition of Luminara, who was at the Battle of Geonosis and also was able to hold her own against Asajj Ventress, though she was on the losing end of that fight. At the top of E tier, we have Kit Fisto, who was able to fight against and was winning against a weaker version of General Grievous who was unrested. That's still insanely impressive though. The last tier we're going to cover in this video is E+ tier, but I will address Mace Windu versus Dooku later. In E+ tier, we've got characters like Asajj Ventress, who was able to defeat Luminara unduly and was getting better and better as a Sith, and she could briefly take on Obi-Wan and Anakin at the same time, which is why they're all in the same tier. However, they're not any higher in Season 1 because they're still shown to be below General Grievous. It even looked like Obi-Wan was about to be killed by Grievous in one of the first few episodes, but again, these tiers will change over time, so don't worry. As for the Mace Windu versus Count Dooku debate, I do not currently have an opinion on that battle. So, I'll let y'all discuss it in the comments, not just because I'm looking for feedback, but because I genuinely don't really know or have an opinion on this debate. I just believe both are in the same tier, and I don't really have much more of an opinion than that. I want to thank you all for watching the video. I love making these, so as long as I get good feedback, or even if I don't, I'm just going to continue making these, and I'm glad that people enjoy them. Bye-bye! Welcome back to Star Wars Power Scaling. Once again, thank you all for the reception I get on these videos, and I thought I'd give back by covering a lot of ground with this video. I'm doing KOTOR, Force Unleashed 1 and 2, Jedi Fallen Order, and Jedi Survival. Without further ado, let's cover the tiers. This time, we're skipping right ahead to I tier and adding security droids and purge troopers. Both purge troopers and security droids can give Cal Kestis difficulty, while a character like, let's say, Captain Rex can get no diffed by Asajj Ventress. Skipping forward a bit again in G tier, we've got Juhani and K405 added to the mix. I might put Juhani even higher later down the road, but for now I'm putting her here because she loses to Revan and gets trolled on by Bandon. In fact, everybody in KOTOR except for Revan doesn't really get substantial wins, which is funny to me because in most Star Wars games it seems these random characters are absurdly powerful for no reason. Like K405, who's just this random security droid who's able to fight against Cal Kestis with assistance from Bode. Going even further up to F tier, I added Kalo Nord because he was able to fight against Revan twice, even if he did lose both times. He was also the best bounty hunter in his entire organization. Jedi Master Coda is also in this tier. He fights Starkiller at the beginning of the game and gives him a decent fight. Up to E tier, we have Kazdan, and Kazdan is interesting because Darth Vader himself said that Kazdan was far stronger than the same Starkiller who defeated Master Cato. So he believed that Kazdan was stronger than a Starkiller who is capable of killing a Jedi Master. This even gives us some new Shaak Ti scaling because Darth Vader later says that compared to Kazdan, Shaak Ti is the real final test to see if Starkiller is worthy. Proxy is ahead of that because Proxy was able to fight against a Starkiller who was even stronger than the one that defeated Kazdan and Shaak Ti. The Inquisitors are Jedi killers. That's their job, and the Ninth Sister was able to give Cal Kestis an extremely difficult fight. The ninth sister even continued on after sustaining an injury so severe that it would have ended most battles. The second sister consistently beats up Cal Kestis until their final fight. She's also kind of the primary antagonist of the first game and was trained by Seer. Darth Bandon has about as much aura as a wet fart, but I will give credit where credit is due. He was entrusted with the mission by Darth Malak to go after Revan and Bastila. Finally, Ravis gave Cal Kestis a true warrior's battle, and has an alleged history of killing Jedi. Cal Kestis consistently fights off threats even the strongest Jedi cannot handle. He went to Dathomir and he fucked them up. Darth Sidious himself was somewhat afraid of the Night Sisters and the witches. Also, Cal has a history of fighting very strong opponents. Bastila was already arguably a Jedi Council level Jedi, but she got even stronger after becoming a Sith, and almost immediately took Darth Bandon's place. Marin can help Cal Kestis fight off Jedi killer level characters. Obi-Wan basically defeated Asajj Ventress in the Clone Wars movie, and Anakin held his own against Dooku. Oh, I'm gonna upset some people with this tier. Dagan Gera was once a Jedi Knight who consistently overpowered a very strong Cal Kestis. I put Terran higher than this because Terran was straight up about to kill Cal, but he was getting double-teamed by Cal and Marin, which is the only reason he lost. Seer was able to fight off Darth Vader for a long time, though she did eventually lose. Bode is even stronger than Seer and Terran because he was able to take on Cal and Marin at the same time and was winning. You could argue he would have won if it weren't for his blaster malfunction. Finally, in their prime, Revan and Malak were the greatest threat to the galaxy at that point in time. But it's time for the Revan meat riders to calm down. Sith get stronger over generations. That is a fact. And though I love Revan and Malak, I think I would just be lying to myself if I found some bullshit excuse to put them on a higher tier. This does not mean I think that Revan and Malak are weak. I just don't think that they can compete with guys like Yoda, Mace Windu, Count Dooku. But I'd be happy to be proven wrong because Malak is one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars. To close this video off, I saved the strongest for last. Starkiller was able to defeat Darth Vader, and then go on to defeat Darth Sidious. I rest my case. But tell me what you think. Am I an idiot? Am I right on the money? I don't know. I'm just giving my opinion. So, bye-bye.
And then I was sitting here for a long time, waiting for some half-naked miner to show up and—
What's up, guys? It's Naval here, and I've done a bunch of cleanup on the tiers. This is likely gonna be my biggest video yet, so strap in and enjoy the ride. I've completely removed K tier because I feel there's no real reason to cover it, so we're just going to start the tier list with soldier-level characters. Maybe I'll even add another tier for higher soldier-level characters, so we can distinguish the difference between clone troopers and battle droids. At the bottom, you've obviously got battle droids, B1 battle droids, because they're shown to be idiotic and they can't really do much. They often are just fodder for Jedi and clone troopers. B1 battle droids are only really dangerous when they're standing in lines of about like 300 of them, firing a shit ton of blaster fire. Then you have Sith troopers. Sith troopers were able to be a decent threat enough. They're just kind of the fodder characters for your party and KOTOR, but still, I think they're more competent than B1 battle droids and able to provide more of a threat even when there's only like 3 of them. When, say, 50 battle droids can get plowed through by a single Jedi Master. Senate guards are somewhat comparable to clone troopers, and even an elite Senate guard could give Commander Gree a tough time. Clone troopers were trained from day one to be elite soldiers. They are shown mowing through small waves of battle droids. They're independent thinkers. They can do practically anything that a soldier in real life can do, and more. Clone troopers also have a variety of tools and weapons at their disposal. The one drawback is the time it takes to train them and how they have increased aging compared to any normal organic being. B2 battle droids in a one-on-one with a clone trooper, any B2 battle droid could win unless the clone trooper gets some lucky shots or it's a really good clone trooper. B2 battle droids have immense strength, they have jetpacks sometimes, they just be doing shit. So there's clips of B2 battle droids breaking through like steel doors and lifting clone troopers. They have immense strength for no reason and are the direct upgrade of the B1 battle droids. They're also shown to be much, much smarter. Tal's warriors are next because they were capable of taking out a bunch of droids even though they had small numbers and limited weaponry. They can also take out a shit ton of clone troopers. In I tier, we got the clone commanders and captains at the bottom kinda. They're all roughly even, but they have been shown to take out B2 battle droids, even commando droids. They can even fight elite Senate guards, so I think they deserve their spot up here. May and Osha are both on the precipice of being Sith acolytes worth the training of the Stranger. The Stranger has single-handedly murdered a group of Jedi before, and May and Osha are capable of fighting characters on higher tiers, so I think they deserve to be this high up. And obviously, Magna Guards are just kinda goated. I'll briefly mention Padawan tier because I think Ahsoka has some decent feats. She's survived encounters with Asajj Ventress and General Grievous. She was also able to take out a bunch of Magna Guards, so she deserves to be in this tier. The new additions to Jedi Knight tier are Overseer Tremel and Vemrin the Acolyte. Tremel automatically scales above the average Acolyte, and he believed himself capable of defeating a version of the Sith warrior who had already slaughtered multiple acolytes. Vemrin was briefly considered an equal and a rival to the Sith warrior. He was also the greatest acolyte in the entire academy. He was level 10 ahead of most acolytes at the academy as well, and gave the Sith warrior a decent enough fight. Kelvanta was level 15 and able to give an even stronger version of the Sith warrior a decent fight, though she admitted her power was nowhere near the level of a Sith Lord. Graythan was a Sith Lord capable of giving the Sith warrior a good fight, and despite being the same level as Kelvanta, he was considered untouchable by her. Graythan was prominent enough to have his own community of followers and become a nuisance for the Dark Council. Visas Mar is the weakest of the Shadow Hands, but is capable of taking out waves of lower tier characters. Atris was a Jedi Master and a Council member, capable of defeating the Handmaiden and also giving a good fight to the Jedi Exile. Anakin briefly took the advantage in a fight with Count Dooku, and Obi-Wan Kenobi was able to straight up defeat Asajj Ventress. Asajj Ventress continues to grow stronger under the teachings of Darth Tyrannus, and she's able to casually beat Jedi Masters. Bastila Shan is the strongest of the Shadow Hands, being even stronger than Darth Bandon, but she did admit defeat at the hands of Revan. Darth Sion possessed some level of immortality/regeneration, and was able to basically win his first encounter with Mitra Surik and her party. In fact, the entire Sith Triumvirate was considered the strongest Sith left after the defeat of Darth Malak. Mitra Surik is ahead of Sion in power and was able to defeat him in their final fight, but Darth Traya was stated to be even stronger than Mitra Surik in their final battle. Darth Traya can casually bully Jedi Council members and even bully Sion to some extent, but Darth Nihilus is the strongest of the three, having only been defeated by Mitra Surik because she had the ultimate counter to his hacks. I made D plus a tier because I feel that Darth Maul, Grievous, Revan, and Malak are just one tier above even that of people who can kill Jedi casually. When it comes to the Mace Windu versus Count Dooku debate, I'm pretty in the field of thinking they're even. However, my personal opinion is that Mace Windu would win a fight between these two. However, I believe Darth Tyrannus is more powerful, though I believe that Mace Windu could bridge the gap and defeat him. But that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and bye. This is gonna be a long video, so I'm just gonna get into it. Battle droids are idiots. Sith troopers are capable of fighting against you and your party in KOTOR, but they are kind of fodder. Senate guards are just somewhat okay. Stormtroopers get a lot of hate, but they are still highly trained soldiers. Clone troopers are like stormtroopers if they locked in. And B2 battle droids have been shown to beat up clone troopers. Tal's warriors can manhandle battle droids and clones with nothing but spears, but I don't think there's enough evidence to put them a tier higher. In the first part of I tier, we start off with aqua droids who are able to bully clones. Commando droids can also bully and outsmart clones and even give Jedi some trouble. Echo and Fives are main characters and ARC troopers, so they should just automatically scale about here. Assassin droids can mow down swarms of people and were able to give Ahsoka a lot of trouble. There's a direct statement from Anakin that droidicas are more of a problem than commando droids. Also, it only takes about 2 droidicas to give Jedi trouble. And we're talking about main character Jedi. The average Death Watch Mandalorian warrior can give Jedi a lot of trouble. One was even able to catch Obi-Wan Kenobi off guard and knock him out. Clone commanders and captains should automatically scale above whatever team they're leading. Also, they have a certain level of plot armor. In the top half of I tier, we start off with Cody and Rex. Cody and Rex consistently survive encounters with swarms of characters who are also on I tier. But from this point on, every character on I tier could probably kill a Padawan on a good day. Helios gave an unarmed Anakin a lot of trouble. Security droids and purge troopers can give Cal Kestis a good fight. Fordo led a squad of ARC troopers, and also he has that one feat against Grievous where Grievous had to run away from their blaster fire. May and Osha can fight way out of their weight class and were almost at the level of Sith acolytes. And finally, Magna Guards consistently give Jedi Masters trouble. This one should be quick. Torben survived an encounter with evil Kelnaka. Shaji went through an extremely hard battle before Grievous no-diffed him. But Ahsoka has survived encounters with Grievous and Asajj Ventress. Tar and Nadar were both Jedi Knights who held their own against Grievous for as long as they could. Chewbacca and Tarful were capable of mowing through Trandoshans who are capable of bullying Padawans. Ahsoka can do similar things and has been stated to have gotten much stronger between Season 1 and 4. Tremel ranks above Acolytes and thought he was capable of killing a Sith warrior who was able to kill multiple Acolytes. Vemrin was the top Acolyte at the entire Academy and gave an even stronger Sith warrior a good fight. Aura Singh defeated Ahsoka outright, and Anakin held his own against Dooku as long as he could. Yord and Jeki did well in an elongated encounter with the Sith Stranger. Obi-Wan was a prodigy capable of defeating Darth Maul when he was caught off guard by his own arrogance. Guaranteed Obi-Wan had an amp, but it's still impressive. Kelvanta Graythan was a Sith capable of giving the Sith warrior a good fight. She should also be the second strongest Sith among Graythan's Sith. Young Asajj had already trained in the ways of the Jedi, and Count Dooku believed she was, quote, more than enough to take on Anakin Skywalker. This version of Anakin exceeded what Dooku expected by defeating Asajj Ventress. Jocasta Nu was a very intelligent Jedi Master, but she had degraded in power due to not seeing combat, as she was only a librarian, though she does make the bottom of F tier. Kelvanta said she was no match match for her husband Graythan, so he should just arbitrarily be Jedi Master tier. Indara was far stronger than May or Osha, but she was defeated with an off guard. Yul Li was a young Jedi Master defeated by Sith Warrior and easily outdone by Yonlok, though Yonlok states that Yul Li was greater than any student he had ever trained. Kruk briefly fought Grievous by himself, but was defeated. Ayla Secura is above that because she survived the encounter with Grievous. Kel Naka should just automatically be stronger than your average Jedi Master because he's a Wookiee. Also, we see him manhandle a conflicted soul. Hondo and Embo can both make Anakin struggle. Ram Koda gave early game Star Killer a good fight. Raron Karab and Foul Madama were both able to defeat multiple Magna Guards and give Grievous a decent enough fight before being defeated. Ukabi claimed to have killed Sith before and gave Sith Warrior a good fight. The Flame has done similar. Coleman Trebor was a member of the Jedi Council who was noted as a skilled swordsman. However, he was mainly on the council as a representative and got no diffed by Jango Fett. We don't know the full extent of Torben's powers as a Jedi Master, but he seemed to be very powerful. Luminara Unduli could hold her own against Asajj Ventress. Adi Gallia has been shown multiple times to be able to fight off General Grievous to some extent. Finally, Rathari was a Sith Lord who was slowly becoming a nuisance to the Dark Council. He also gave the Sith Warrior a great fight. Most of the characters you don't recognize at the bottom of E tier are characters who are able to fight off the Sith Warrior to some extent. I might move Pre Vizsla down a bit, but I do think he is still impressive because he was able to fight Obi-Wan. Atris was a council member who briefly fought off Mitra Surik, and that's impressive enough to get her here. Eth Koth did decently before being defeated by General Grievous. Visas Mar assists in the final battle against Nihilus. Proxy and Kazdan are both able to give great fights to a much stronger Starkiller, and the Ninth Sister fights Cal Kestis very well twice. Second Sister does well against an even stronger Cal Kestis, and Kiadi Mundi and Shakti were both able to hold their own against Grievous. I put Shakti ahead of Kiadi Mundi because of her fight against Starkiller. Darth Bandon was briefly the second highest ranking Sith in the galaxy during the KOTOR era, and he is noted as a proficient Jedi killer. His greatest feat is briefly fighting off Revan. Obi-Wan went head-to-head with Jango Fett, who is a Jedi Knight killer level character, and Qui-Gon held his own against Darth Maul. Jango Fett has killed many Jedi and gone head-to-head with Obi-Wan. Dirge went head-to-head with an even stronger, more war-trained Obi-Wan. Ravis gave Cal Kestis one of his hardest fights ever, and Kit Fisto was winning against a Grievous who was weakened. Jace was a Padawan prodigy who can help the Sith Warrior take down Jedi Masters and Sith Lords. Marin is shown to be roughly even to Cal Kestis and helps him fight off characters on the tier above. Bastila is a prodigy who was even able to fight off Revan to a certain extent as a Padawan, and at her peak she was the strongest of the Shadow Hands, even above that of Darth Bandon. Cal Kestis consistently does things even the strongest Jedi can't do, and he's also shown to consistently fight off powerful Sith Lords. Cad Bane was the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy and was able to fight off and basically defeat both Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Asajj, Obi-Wan, and Anakin are all prodigies capable of holding their own, at least for some time, against characters on higher tiers. Grievous, Dooku, etc. Darth Vowron was on the Dark Council, so bare minimum he should be on this tier. Drog was the apprentice of Darth Barriss and was capable of holding his own against the Sith Warrior. Degan Gera and Teron Malakis were both shown as superior to Cal Kestis. Author statements and the narrative does not matter if it contradicts what is directly shown on screen. At least in my opinion. There is a certain level of suspension of disbelief with fictional media, but I don't think it's fair if, let's say, George Lucas had an apple show up in Revenge of the Sith, and then 20 years later he tweeted, "This apple isn't actually an apple, it's a banana." Just like how I don't care if the creator says that Bode and Cal Kestis are equal in terms of strength, because that makes no fucking sense. This isn't a response to any criticism I've gotten. This is just a statement I'd like to make going forward. If the apple is actually a banana, it is the writer's job to suspend our disbelief and make it make sense. Anyway, the stranger is a Sith Lord who was trained by Darth Plagueis. Killed Kelnaka off-screen, was able to fight Sol, and killed a whole group of Jedi. Sol was able to defeat the stranger. Anakin and Obi-Wan grew in strength and did even better against opponents higher up on the tier list, such as Grievous, Dooku, Savage. I think Dooku said it to get under Anakin's skin, but he did make a statement saying that Obi-Wan was more of a worthy opponent for him than Anakin. Darth Vengeance was able to fight the Sith warrior, Jace, and Drog at the same time, though he did lose. He was also a well-established member of the Dark Council. Darth Ekage fought an even stronger Sith warrior, aka Emperor's Wrath, alongside Jess and Master Tims. She was also a member of the Dark Council, though she was defeated. The Emperor's Wrath eventually got so strong that Darth Vowron, one of the strongest Sith in the galaxy, didn't even want to fight him, saying that even if he had all his Sith helping him, he would have still lost. Darth Barris is the final boss for the Emperor's Wrath, so he should be right here. He also quickly began taking over the Dark Council once he became a member. He should be at least top 12 strongest in the galaxy at this point in time, because he was able to fight against a Sith warrior who Darth Vowron did not want the smoke from. There are multiple statements putting the Sith Triumvirate as the strongest Sith after Darth Malak and Revan, the order from weakest to strongest being Sion, Traya, and then Nihilus. Mitra Surik fought all three of them, so she should be somewhere in the middle. Seer fought off Darth Vader. That is my only argument for her being this high.
Is that your only argument? It's the only argument I need, Sean!
Bode fought off Marin and Cal Kestis. Malak and Revan were the strongest Sith during the KOTOR era, not including Vitiate. In The Phantom Menace, Darth Maul was stated to be one of the strongest Sith of all time. Grievous literally murders Jedi for sport. I've finally decided to put Mace Windu above Dooku because I believe in a fight between the two, Mace Windu would win. The Zillo Beast was unaffected by Yoda and Aayla Secura, and Darth Vader failed to kill one. For the first time, we're showing off A tier, including the Father, the Daughter, and the Son, who are Force gods that represent the balance, the light side, and the dark side. And the Father is so low because we're not using the Father in his prime, we're using the aging version who was being defeated by the Son casually. If we used a hypothetical prime father, he would likely be S tier. In S tier, we have Chosen One Anakin because he was able to manhandle the son and the daughter while he was in his Chosen One form. But that's gonna do it for this video. Bye!